What's up, everybody? We're back. It is Friday again. We're a day late. We're gonna have to work after the Thursday night game. It was a pretty wild game. Some things came out of that. Good things, bad things. Bad things if you own Tua. Bad things if you played Cook. Good things if you had Mostert, I guess. But we're not gonna recap last week too much. Kind of takes too much time, and it's already over, so no one really cares. Everyone pretty much moves on. But just the basics. The average score was 109.4. 7 teams went over 100 points last week. 5 of them won. The 2 that lost were Bry Guy and myself, because typically how it works. Abbott got the high score of the week at 148.6. I wrote down Josh Allen, 35.1 points. But I think, okay, that was the highest started player because Baker got more, but he wasn't started. Players of note, Anthony Richardson got 32. Garrett Wilson got 9. Olave got 2.1. London got 2.5. That's kind of the trio of receivers I'm going to watch for a little while. As far as our picks went, we both picked me. We both lost. We both picked Joey. We both lost. We both picked you. We both won. We both picked Jeff. We both won. I picked Kurt over Bry. I won. You lost. And I picked Jack over Pat. I won. You lost. So I went 4-2. You went 2-4. Really quick, the signings here. Abbott got Likely for $41. I know he's a very popular pick. 41. He spent almost. I guess he spent 41% of his fab.
Yeah.
Who's this? Joey got Jeff Wilson for $25. He did almost nothing yesterday, from what I understand.
No.
Trevor Lawrence got dropped, and Bucky Irvin got added for $13 from Pat. Tagmeyer got Colby Parkinson and dropped Adonai Mitchell for $11. I want to look at the report on that. Did anyone bet on Parkinson?
It's a good question.
Why did he take a Rams tight end? Is it just because Puka's out?
Another good question.
Okay.
He's made a lot of questionable decisions lately.
I would think so. Addison. I added Alexander Madison for $6. The Chargers defense got added for $6 from Jeff. You got Tank Bigsby for a bargain at $3. And let's see, the Jaguars got added to Kurt for $1. Couple defenses, couple big names. I would think Wilson and Likely were a couple big names, and then we got to get to the bottom of the Parkinson. Is it Parkinson or Parkinson? One of them's the disease, and the other one's a tight end for the Rams.
Colby Parkinson.
I don't know which one's going to get more fantasy points next week, though.
I don't know if either one's a big good bet.
Excellent. Do you want to jump into the power rankings?
Yeah.
What the people were looking for.
That was a fan favorite last week, so we'll get right into it this week.
It's a fan favorite every week.
And honestly, as I look at it going into week 2, I think that the way that it shaped up, I wasn't too off kilter there because 4 of the top 6 teams won, and 2 of them played each other.
Yeah.
You know, Jack and or Palmer and somebody else played each other, so. To have four of those top 6 teams that I ranked win, I think, was a good start to the season. Jumping into it, coming in number 12, I don't think there's really any debate right now. It's the new owner of Colby Parkinson, Tim's not top team.
So I went ahead and I wrote one question for every single team instead of going into everything. So for Tagmeyer, is he battling Joey for last place?
He is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you ruined number 11, but number 11 is Boner and Sweatpants.
Well, I don't know if I ruined it. Joey put up, real quick, I think it was in the 60s, 66 points last week, and Tagmeyer put up 77. So, I mean, that's a monumental change. So, it could go either way, but... See, I bet him, and this is what happened.
If you did that before, she just wants attention.
So is Tagmeyer going to be battling Joey the rest of the season for last place?
As it looks right now, you never know with injuries what could happen, But as we sit here today, everyone's roster stays as it is. Yeah, I mean, one of Tag's top picks, Marvin Harrison, he had one catch. Second round pick, you expect more. So not much there. And then Joey's team, you saw it last night. His starting tight end, Dalton Kincaid, didn't do much. Malik Neighbors, the Giants look bad. Really not much out of Rodgers either. So as we sit here, yeah, now that could obviously change.
So for Joey, his only bright spot was Jaden Reed, and he lost his quarterback. So now what for Joey?
And he's a hard start anyway. They have a lot of receivers in Green Bay to begin with. Watson, Dobbs, Reed, Wicks. I don't know if you really can decide who's going to be their number one, who's going to get the ball yet. So even though he had a big week, I don't know if he's going to do that every week.
So Joey went from 9 to 11.
Number 10, any guesses?
I was 10 last week.
You're 10 again this week.
10 again this week.
Yeah, you talked about it. You scored over 100. You had a decent showing week, but it's hard to move up when you don't get the win. Still have a question at the second running back. I could see you moving up. Clearly better than the two teams below you.
I would
But
think so.
got to get that win.
Yeah, so for my question, how do I address running back 2?
You got to be a trade or waiver wire addition right now.
But that's some really in-depth reporting.
I mean, what other options?
Well, I thought
Should
you
I-
would say, well, listen, I know this guy has a running back. I have a little bit of a deeper receiving core. They're not all superstars, but there is some potential there. Maybe it's a Deontay
Hey.
Johnson for blah, 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 and you were going to suggest something. I was going to press the button. Things were going to happen.
I've sent things over. I didn't get any responses or any counter offers, so
You offered me a receiver for a receiver. That doesn't help my RB2.
I think there was a running back in there.
By definition only. Go ahead. Number
Number 9,
9.
the Crumb Snatchers. One of the biggest fallers of the week.
He was
You know-
4th. He was 4th last week.
And it pains me to say, but Tim, he's kind of fallen right in the footsteps of last year. There's no bias in these rankings. Want to start him high. Had him in the top 6, but of course, week 1, and he's already proven me wrong. Had to drop him down.
So with Palmer, my question is, what is his identification? His team, Jeff named his team a hodgepodge of nothingness, but that is pretty much how I would describe Palmer's team at this point.
Yeah, you know what? I think he has a lot of question marks. He had a big night out of James Cook
Don't
last
remind me.
night. So, next week could be a little bit of a different story. But he went big on Breece Hall. The Jets didn't look as great last week. Michael Pittman, he didn't do as much as we thought, although Anthony Richardson had a really big day, so who knows. Tim's another one. I think there's a clear ledge between 10 and 11. You and Tim, I think, are in a different league right now than those bottom two.
Thank you for that. That makes me feel much better. The two guys, if you put their score together, I still beat them. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, those two.
Okay.
Did they even come to the draft? Did they watch football?
I don't know about either of them.
Coming in number 8, we have Grant's Union Army.
So Kurt was... No, that was Pat. Grant's Union Army.
Yeah,
is
that's Pat.
Pat. Well, he was 7th.
So he fell one spot after his loss. The big thing there was the loss of CMC.
Huge thing.
Talked about it last week. CMC's kind of due for the injury. Was out most of the preseason with some phantom calf injury. It wasn't so phantom. He's out as a surprise week 1 Monday night, and that causes Oath to lose.
Yeah, so for Pat, the question is, will Dobbins be able to fill the shoes of CMC because he had such a big game last week?
Nobody's going to fill the shoes. Dobbins looked great last week. Dobbins a great guy if you watch his interviews.
Yeah,
he seems like a really good person to root for
He's a
after
guy
all the
that's
injuries.
easy to root for. He hasn't given up yet. And he was big with Aaron Rodgers. I think they trained together this offseason.
Yeah, but it's hard to see him having that performance all week. And then if you take away, I don't know how many yards he's had. I don't think it was it over 100?
He had like 130, but there was a 60-yard run and a 40-yard run.
Yeah, he
Then
had
got
2
caught.
big yards. Yeah.
Yeah, he got caught on both of them, so he's not 100% yet, and who knows? We'll find out this week if the Raiders are a legitimate defense
But
whenever Derrick Henry goes against them.
last week also, A-Chain was injured, banged up. He played last night. He got 26. So, um, I think his team's going to be hurt now, though. He has Jalen Waddle. If Tua's not there, big shot.
Ooh, a lot of Dolphins, yeah.
And then his other receivers, Drake London. We talked about him last week. What do you have? 2 points?
2.5. He beat Olave by 0.4.
He was going against arguably the best defense and, the top cornerback in the league, and Joey Porter Jr. So you can't hold that against him completely, but not a good showing.
His quarterback is clearly not ready to play. Not that his quarterback's ever ready to play, but that's why he's had such a below expected career to this point. So, and then his next guy is Tank Dell, who I think Tank Dell is good, but you said it, a lot of mouths to feed. Is it a Nico Collins day? Is it a
Nico
Stephon
had 100,
day?
Diggs had 2 touchdowns, so yeah, Tank Dell's that third guy.
Just tank the guy out, So there's a lot to see with Pat.
So coming in at number 7, that last team to lose. Had them in the top 6, they fell out of it. That's the Rough Cats. Again, I think it's a pretty solid team all around. The one question mark we talked about was that Olave, he had 2 points?
2.1.
And they scored 40-some points. So
that's the wild thing about
that's a little alarming. But other than that, I still think it's a solid team. Olave might be a question mark. Singletary, Kelsey, who knows? If Hollywood Brown's out, for months now, you would expect Kelsey's production to really get back on par with what it was. I think Bry Guy, he had a bad week with the loss, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah,
he'll be fighting in that, 4 through 7 spot pretty much the whole year.
And he was 6th, so.
Coming in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bry Guy. Where were we? Huge week from his kicker and his defense. Is that sustainable?
I think they help him, carry him a little bit. I mean, he still lost, but I think the rest of his roster, he'll be okay. 6, we have the Army of the North, which is, this one is Kurt. Kurt, he was 11th last week?
Kurt was 11th, yeah. He made a huge jump.
He had a big jump. Part of it was, Josh Allen, and then Cooper Kupp. I think no one really knew what to expect out of Cooper Kupp because of the injuries last year and then the rise in Nakua. Puka gets hurt. Kupp's clearly the number 1. Josh Allen has a big week there, even though they don't really have any number 1 receiver. That carried him. If you look at his lineup, I actually don't love his lineup, and this week already, Josh Allen only scored 10 points, so I'm probably going to predict him to lose. He has a really good receiving core, a lot of question marks at running back. Good tight end, but if Allen's only going to get him 10 points, I don't know how it's going to be sustainable. Although he's won last week, so he's going to jump for now.
Yeah, he on Thursday, August 29th. What day did we draft? That was the week after. Just 1 week after we drafted. He added Jordan Mason for $2, so I'm sure Pat was probably panicking, looking around for him, and he got picked up a week or two before.
Well, it was
a good pickup for sure.
It was a good pickup. Maybe we'll put him in the starting lineup. He doesn't have him there yet.
Yep.
Coming in at number...
Kurt, sorry. Can he keep it up with 4 boom guys? Because he had 4 guys that really went off, and I think you addressed it with Josh Allen not having his big week. And I think Cooper Kupp will sustain. But, Aubrey had a phenomenal... The kickers have been crazy this year already.
It's going to be Cooper Kupp and CeeDee Lamb that carry him.
I would agree. Although, what do you have? Cleveland this week, I believe. No, it was last week. I'm not sure what CeeDee Lamb has this week. But, he was 11th, so that's a monster jump.
Coming in at number 5 is return doubtful, Jack.
That's where he was last week. He stayed the same. And Jack, Pat won the league last year, correct?
Yes.
So Jack now holds the crown.
Jack, I think he was led by, we talked about, one of the hottest fantasy players going into the year, Anthony Richardson. He had a big day quarterback, looked good throwing the ball. They lost the game, but helped carry Jack's team to the win. Jack's running backs, Alvin Kamara. I think he was another one who really had a big week. Nobody knew what to expect. You kind of expect a running back his age to fall off. New Orleans had a great game. They did play Carolina, so who knows if Kamara will keep that up. Jefferson looked good with Sam Darnold. George Pickens looked good with Justin Fields. So I think Jack has a good, just solid team. Really, no big weaknesses to see. I see him sticking around this, top six for a long time.
So with Jack, can he trust Richardson the whole season? Obviously, he took a couple shots. He took really uh, just a huge show of arm talent, falling back, launching 170. But that's not going to happen every week.
Yeah, with Jack, I think what's gonna hurt Jack is injuries. He has a very good starting lineup. Doesn't have much depth. He already lost Jake Ferguson at a tight end. Dalton Schultz looks like he's injured as well, so I don't know how he's going to replace him there. But yeah, with Richardson, and then even the rest of his bench, I don't see a lot of depth there. So if he's able to stay healthy, he's going to be good. If not, I think that's where we see him fall. Coming in number 4, and another big leaper of the week was S.A. Quarantine.
So Palmer was number 4, and Abbott was 8. So he had a big jump, and I bet that was on the shoulders of
Saquon Barkley. Saquon had 3 touchdowns. We didn't know what to expect with him jumping teams. It looked like it worked really well. Same thing with Diggs. You didn't know what to expect with him. He had 2 touchdowns. Godwin had a really nice day. David Montgomery had a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk's on his bench now. He dropped a touchdown. So it looks like this is a very deep team. Unlike Jack, I like the starting lineup, but then I also really like the bench. Tony Pollard looked good. He's on the bench. Zeke, I think, had a touchdown on the bench. And now he has Isaiah Likely as well, who you would think is going to continue to produce down in Baltimore.
So he played Joey. Joey had 66 points. If you just take Barkley and Dallas defense, Abbott scored 57. So he was only 9 points away with 2 people. But as far as Abbott goes, is Barkley going to end the season RB1 with McCaffrey coming out the gate a little bit gimpy?
I think so.
I don't really. Brees was supposed to be great. He didn't look good. Bijan looked okay, but they don't have a passing game, so they're going to be stacked on him. I don't know who else. Taylor doesn't have that. I'm not even sure any other. They were the first 3 running backs.
No, I think
Gibbs doesn't seem to be a workhorse.
Barring injuries, I think it has to be Barkley.
It's almost a runaway with McCaffrey not.
McCaffrey's banged up. Mason looks like maybe they'll mix him in a little bit more.
He's not going to not play when McCaffrey comes back.
I couldn't tell you who the second is in Philly. Maybe Kenneth Gainwell.
It doesn't matter. I don't think.
Yeah. So I think he's a workhorse back and they're a good team too. So they're going to score a lot. Got a lot of offensive weapons. Anything down around the goal line's going to him. So number 3, no change. 3 last week, 3 this week. Hodgepodge of nothingness. Jeff had a really solid week again last week. We talked about his team. Jaden Daniels looked good. As far as good for being a fantasy quarterback. He ran the ball a lot. You'll assume similar to like Anthony Richardson, he's going to get a lot with his legs. Then he'll mix some passing in here and there. Might not win the team game, but for fantasy, it's great. Kenneth Walker looked really good. Tyreek Hill, he had a good game last week. This week, obviously, we know he didn't. Lost his quarterback. So that's going to be a question mark. Ridley didn't put up a lot of stats last week, but if you look at his targets, I think the targets were there, and I think the production's going to come.
I would agree with all that. As far as Jeff goes, can he overcome the loss of Love, Puka, and now looking at it, Kenneth Walker? He has a core injury yesterday. I'm not sure if he practiced today. He didn't practice yesterday. But that's a lot to sustain in 1 week.
Yeah, I think the lineup he has in now is just fine for the next couple weeks. The good thing is Puka's only out 4 weeks. Love's 4 weeks. He'll get all these guys back this season. So if he gets them back and he's able to stay around 500, he's money. If he loses anybody else or he goes on a big losing streak, that's going to be tough.
Just to clean something up, with 2 games, Devon Achane has 45 points. With 2 games, Cook has 41 points. With 1 game, Barkley has 34. Then Mixon with 27, Mason with 23, Dobbins with 23, Ramondre with 22. there's not really a name. If Cook really gets going, but I think barring an injury, Barkley might run away with the Russian crown.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, but as it stands right now, I think Barkley would have to be the favorite. Coming in at number 2, and I think maybe a little surprise, but shouldn't be because that's where they were last week, is Dirty Sanchez. We talked about it, when you look at the lineup, there's maybe some question marks, but had them at 2 last week. They won, scored almost 130 points. And really, I think, it's hard to move him at this point with Stu. He was led by his running backs. Joe Mixon and Ramondre Stevenson both had very big weeks. I guess you could say, is Joe Mixon going to be a guy that competes for that top running back the way they used him last week? I don't think he'll be used like that the entire year, but after 1 week he had a huge week. Mike Evans looked great again, 2 touchdowns. And really, Jamar Chase, who's his number 1 receiver, was barely used. It's still question marks there. And Trent McBride, didn't see much production out of him. So we actually saw a lot of production from a few of the guys we didn't think would produce as much for Stu's team as they did.
Do you think Mixon and Ramondre can continue their production moving forward?
I don't, personally, but I'm not always right.
Well, I know one thing. I don't think you're right about this number 1, but go ahead.
Number 1. They were number 1 last week. They won. They're number 1 again this week. The Steam Buns.
5, 6, 7,
Big week
8,
out of Lamar.
9.
Big week out of Lamar.
So the number 1 power ranked team got outscored by 9 other teams in the league.
But they're number 1-0. 1-0.
They're 1-0.
Is this a guillotine
Listen,
where the lowest scoring team gets out, or?
A win is a win, but are you content?
Oh, I'm very content. Really, no. I mean, Lamar played like he did. Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, really 2 running backs that I think have no competition in their backfield. Neither one of them did anything. Garrett Wilson, him and Rodgers, you could see they're building a rapport. Amari Cooper looked not good because Cleveland looks not good.
The whole organization's a mess.
But then Kittle looked good. The defense and kicker looked good. I think it was an overall solid performance, and I really liked my bench. Jameson Williams had a huge day. If he can, he's not going to do that every week, but I think he might turn into a really solid number 2 in Detroit because that's the position they lack the most. And then between McConkey and Coleman, I think I have another number 1 receiver kind of in waiting there. So I'm glad where I'm at.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're confident in that. Well, as far as I had a questionable popped up with Nico Collins. He's sick. It's an illness, so hopefully he plays this week, or else it's a catastrophe. Looking ahead to this week, week 2. 0-2 isn't the end of the world, but 0-2 sucks. You don't feel good about yourself. So, a lot of teams. One of these 2 teams will be 0-2. Palmer versus myself. Palmer got out to a huge lead already with 30 points out of James Cook. I had no one going. His projection is 139 to 115. Just looking prior to James Cook, I thought our teams were pretty similar. I thought his running back 2 is better than mine, but I thought my receiver 2 is better than I think Nico's better than Pittman. But how do you see this shaking out the rest of the way?
I mean, you got to go with Palmer at this point. Just that huge night out of James Cook. As I look here and look at the individual matchups, I think it's very close across the board. I like your A.J. Brown, Nico Collins a little bit more than. I thought that was so.
Debo and Pittman, but
I mean, even that's close because I'm a big fan of Debo. I like your tight end maybe a little more, and Andrews. Maybe you'll see him get involved a little bit more. And Xavier Worthy, I think you're going to see him more. That they know Hollywood Brown's out trying to work him in. But Aaron Jones had a big week last week. I think it is a close. If I didn't know that James Cook put up 30, it would be a coin flip for me. Knowing that Cook put up 30, I got to go Palmer.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just looking at Aaron Jones versus San Fran. I'm looking at Brees Hall versus Tennessee. They're 2 big run stoppers. Then I see Pacheco versus Cincy. and Gus Edwards versus Carolina, so I think I got the matchups. But I'm going to take myself because what kind of a manager I want to be if I don't bet on myself. But it's not confident. I would have loved to seen maybe a 15-point game out of him. But we will see. That's 2 weeks now that running backs have scored 3 touchdowns in a game. Next game is Pat versus Joey. One team will be 1-2 and one team will be 1-1. One team will be 0-2. Pat's out to a 32-5 lead on Joey. Joey still projected to beat him, even though he had only 5 out of Kincaid. The 6 out of Jalen Waddle for Pat is concerning, but he did follow it up with 26 from Achane. Who are you riding with in this one?
You know, I think this one's close. I mean, you really think Waddle and Kincaid kind of cancel each other out there, although you would want a little bit more out of your wide receiver 2.
He might be his wide receiver 1.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to go with Oat here, Grant's Union Army. There's something, I like Brian Robinson Jr. a lot for Joey's team, and I like St. Brown, but there's just something, I don't know. I just have a feeling that Oat's going to pull it out here. Kyler Murray looked good last week. Dobbins looked good, but who knows? I don't like Drake London. You know, I actually think I like a little bit more of the individual players from Joey's team. But just like your game, I like the big night out of Achane last night. That was really the only positive thing for Miami. He put up 26 points, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I think Joey lacks a quarterback. I don't think Rodgers is what he used to be. I see Amon-Ra is going to bounce back. I think he's still elite. Devontae Adams is really good, but he's playing Baltimore now, and the one thing Baltimore can do is stop a receiver. And Adams has been saying some glowing things about Lamar, so I know they're paying attention to him, and they're not going to want Adams to beat him. Malik Neighbors still. Malik Neighbors has to do it before he makes the starting lineup for me. But then on the other side, you know, Drake London could have 2 points. Dobbins could have 40 or 2. Tank Dell again could be nothing. It's close. I think the Achane Murray outweighs the Amon-Ra and Kyron, so I'm going to take Pat.
My dark horse is Brian Robinson. I'm a big fan of him. I think he has a big year. He's on Joey's team. I picked against him in this game, but I'm a big fan of him. I think he's going to be a top 10 running back by the end of the year.
Yeah, he's averaged 16 points. He's 14th right now, but that's 12 carries, 40 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions, 49. That 49 yards receiving is what's going to do it. He's playing the Giants, so they are just awful in every facet of the game. Next one, you have an interest in. One of these teams will be 2-0. One will be 1-1. It's Abbott versus you, Steam Buns and SA Quarantine. You're up 6-0 from your kicker, and you're projected to lose by almost a full point.
Actually, before the game yesterday, we were projected exactly the same, down to the 10th.
So they feel that Tyler Bass should have got 7 and not 6.
Yes. Obviously, I'm going to pick my team here. I really like the lineup I have in right now. As long as everyone, Jacobs and Williams, are both questionable, as long as they play as they should, I'm picking me. I think the biggest advantage I have would be the quarterback.
Yeah, I like Goff, but he's not in the same level as Lamar. That being said, I think Taylor is decent, but with the way that offense runs now, I think he's not on the same level as Barkley. But then I don't think Henry and Jacobs are much different. Honestly, I don't really see Stephon Diggs and Garrett Wilson much different, even though Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdowns last week. That's, I think, all he had was those 2 short passes. Godwin's been really good this year already. He's always good. He kind of gets overshadowed a bit by Evans.
Yeah.
But this is the next one I'm looking at. It's Likely versus Kittle. He's trying to catch lightning in a bottle, and for $41, I almost hope Likely gets nothing just to have some parity in it. I'm actually going to take – I think I'm going to take you. So this Jamison Williams, there's a questionable there, and there's a questionable with Jacobs. Are we concerned they're not playing?
I believe they're both going to play. I mean, you never know anymore with the injury report. Williams tweaked his ankle in the first half of the game last week, and he's still questionable. He played the second half, so.
Yeah, he was on fire. He was, I think he went to Alabama. He was a super
Yes.
fast guy at Alabama, and it just never translated. He always got hurt. Kind of seemed like he was kind of dopey and made
He
some
was
bad mistakes.
well. He got suspended for gambling.
That would do that. And then
You
this
think he watched the show? You took our gambling advice?
probably watches Hammer Down. But it's exciting to see him finally do well. I've had him for a couple years. I got him last year late, and he had one big game and then fell apart. So we'll see if he can maintain it this year. Next one. I think this might be the first game with a 1-0 versus an 0-1. Return Doubtful and Timothy's top team. First of all, I think you need to change the name. This is the Redskins football team commander situation here. You just got to try to get that stink off of it. Name it anything else. Just try to rebrand yourself the best you can.
That's actually a good call out. When he was the general, he was a winner.
Champion.
He changed.
He had the highest win
yes.
percentage in the
He
history.
changed to Timothy's top team, and since then hasn't won a game.
Is that an ESPN default name? I know Yahoo does like Justin's cool team, Tim's top team.
I don't know. Maybe he should go back to like the general 2.0 or maybe that's what suggestions for his new team name.
I would say like the sergeant or something because till he starts winning because you don't want to.
No, they're
I can't think of it. Staff sergeant tags.
Corporal.
So he's projected to lose 113 to 111. Just the names on Jack's team, like before the season, Anthony Richardson, I felt was a QB1. ETN, loved ETN. Kamara, he's always been good. Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league. George Pickens, yardage machine. Zamir White was like a fantasy darling early, but looking at it all together and only to be projected 113, does Tagmeyer have the firepower to get through? Because he has a couple of names too. Herbert, who was better before week one than he is now. A little bit more out of Gibbs, a little bit more out of Harrison. I do love Connor and DJ Moore. I think they're very steady. But then here we sit with Colby Parkinson, who got 6.7 points last week. So it's the starting. Oh, and Njoku got hurt. That was the move.
Yeah. Njoku got hurt, but I think you could have got him for $1.
Maybe. Hollywood's out, Nick Chubb's out, and Njoku's out. He has a lot to try to get off. DK Metcalf is a guy that I don't think he's spectacular week to week. At the end of the year, you look, okay, he was receiver 16 or something, 14. But sitting in your flex, I think that's okay. Who are you going with in this one?
I got to go Jack. Wouldn't surprise me if... Nah, it would. I got to go Jack.
Shocked. I think the 2-point projection's not even close. I think Jack handles
we
this
hear
one.
you. She's going Jack, too.
Yeah, and I don't think Herbert might throw 6 passes this week. I think they're going to hammer. They're going to run. Carolina lost their only good defensive player to run stoppers, so there's no reason why Herbert's going to have to throw in this game.
Okay.
Moving on, Army of North Virginia versus Hodgepodge of Nothingness. 2 1-0 teams.
Good game here.
Good game. One of them's going to 2-0. Kurt has 10 points out of Josh Allen. He cannot be happy about that. Jeff has 5 points out of Tyreek Hill. You cannot be happy about that. Let me click on Kenneth Walker's WC here, and he missed Thursday's practice. Oblique injury for a running back. That's not fantastic. It doesn't say if he practiced Friday. I would be keeping a huge eye on that. Who's his backups?
Ooh.
Wowzer. Puka Nacua IR. Jordan Love out. Jonathan Brooks out. TJ Hawkinson out. Ray Davis played. Mike Williams. He does not have a backup running back.
Ooh.
That's a problem. I think you do what you need to do. Who do you get? I mean, get rid of Mike Williams.
He needs to make a trade.
He can. Yeah, he has to make a trade. We missed a waiver, No, there's Sunday morning waivers. He has to get a running back. I wonder if I'm Kurt if I don't scam the first couple running backs off the board just to see what happens.
If I'm Jeff, I look for a good young up and coming running back.
Yeah. You got Chase Brown. You got Charbonnet. You got Jordan Mason.
I don't have any of those guys.
That's what Kurt has on his bench. Kurt has he has some decent run. Well, see, they're all names. Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler. There's no number one running back on this team though.
Right.
I'm obviously taking I'm taking Kurt just because I don't know that Kenneth Walker plays, and 5 out of Hill isn't great. Rasheed Rice, however, he can do well. And Calvin Ridley versus Jets.
I think
Tennessee's trouble with quarterback.
This is a tough one because I think Jaden Daniels outscores Josh Allen now that we know Allen had 10. I think CeeDee Lamb clearly outscores Hill.
Yeah.
Kupp's going to Kupp and Ridley I think will be close, but Kupp gets it.
I don't think that's close. I think Kupp's probably sitting around 30. Ridley would be lucky to see 10.
I'm going to go Jeff.
Yep.
I'm going Jeff.
That's a bold
I'll
one.
go opposite. I'm going Jeff. You need more out of your starting quarterback in Josh Allen. He's not going to get anything out of his running backs. He's going to have 2 receivers go for 20-some points. Kurt might not break 100.
Jeez. Last game on the slate. Brian with Rough Cats at 0-1 versus Stu with Dirty Sanchez at 1-0. Stu's projected by less than 8 points, 122 to 121. This is some big name guys. Here we got Mahomes versus Stroud. We got Richardson versus Mixon. Najee versus Ramondre. This is where it sort of changes. Jamar Chase versus Olave. Evans versus Devonta. Devonta Smith's good. I think Evans is better. Trey McBride and Kelsey. Ravens versus Steelers. Boswell versus Moody. They are, man, except for the Olave, they are right in Olave and Christian Kirk, you could say. So that evens it out back. Man, this is a tight game. This will be a back and forth game, I think.
I agree. It's another coin flip. I think they're all, everyone this week is kind of close. The ones that, we knew what some of the guys scored, really what helped, separate our picks so far. This one, right down the middle, I'm going Stu. Stu's my number 2 ranked team in the power rankings. He has really nobody that looks injured right now. I think his receivers are just better than what Bry Guy has to offer right now. I like Stu.
I concur. I agree. I'd like to see Jamar Chase get going just because I think it's fun to watch the Bengals offense. And then it just looked terrible. Burrow got his wrist thing with his water bottle, and
a lot of question marks there.
Chase turned down a huge contract. Now people are saying T. Higgins is faking an injury, which I don't think you would do that on a franchise tag. I think you play as good as you can to get a big contract next year. But that Cincinnati fans are very educated, I'm sure. They've been good for 2 years. They think they know everything. But that's about it. Look at the standings. You and Jack are leading our division. Me, Palmer, Pat, and Tags are all 0-1. And the other side, they have 4 one-win teams and 2 two-win teams. So as of right now, I think our divisions are weighted a bit more in Division 2. We should name the divisions 1 and 2.
I usually call them JV and varsity.
Well, that's sort of what I was getting at. And I think by the end of the year, we got the anchor Tags dragging our division down, but that's fine. It's still we got a lot of top heavy.
He's gonna make some moves. He'll figure it out.
So right now, Jack has 60% chance to make the playoffs. You have 59. Abbott 64. Kurt 64. Stu 64. Jeff is 59. I am currently sitting at 42. No, I'm sitting at 39%. And Tags is, Joey's the lowest at 35. Tags is 36%. Actually, and Pat is 39. Bry's 40. It's all over the board. I don't understand how they figured that out. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's just an equation.
It's a guess.
They don't take anything into account there. There it is. I was trying to find the final standing projection to see who the biggest movers were, and there it is. So the biggest movers is Grants Union Army went from 1 to 9. Rough Cats went from 2 to 8. Stu stayed at 3. The biggest risers were Abbott went from 11 to 2. Kurt went from 9 to 1. Jack went from 10 to 4. Joey went from 7 to 12. Where's Tagmar's team?
He's 11. You got to scroll down.
12. He went from 12 to 11. Good for him. So that's almost consistent with your power rankings. Yeah.
And I didn't look at that. I don't use theirs.
No,
but look at the top. Everyone on the top has a red arrow going left. Everyone at the bottom has a green arrow going right.
That's a wild chart. Oh, there it is, trending up. Abbott went up 9 spots. Kurt went up 8. Jack went up 6, trending down. Grant Union Army went down 8. He should change his names too.
Just because it's confusing.
It's so tough. So tough. But I understand what he's doing, but that's... Maybe just do that whenever you're playing him. You have anything else? You content with... we got 40 minutes here. We're tightening it.
Good.
That's with nothing.
Tags will be happy.
Wow.
Good Friday night viewing. He can watch this, some high school football.
I was going to say it was the high school game of the week.
I don't know.
You're on into it
Baldwin plays, shit, I just saw it too.
I don't know. Is Baldwin any good this year? I know they...
No, they're terrible.
I thought they had a couple... I don't think they were great last year. They were decent then, weren't they?
No, they were terrible
That's
too.
basketball.
Char Valley.
That was
Char
basketball.
Valley.
Was good.
So they're going to lose by a lot.
And then you have this to watch at halftime or something.
I mean,
Very much. Any questions? We get any questions from anybody?
you control the email.
Yeah, well, no. I was just trying to spark something.
Like, you don't control the email
I do
anymore?
control
or
the
you just
email,
don't
but
get
it has
questions?
been vacant since Stu emailed 3 years ago about the Denver airport.
You should text them and tell them to start that again.
I'll try. I don't want to offend him, though. He's...
He's offended
Sometimes he
by
doesn't
text
like-
messages?
I don't know. I think he could be. I think if he's in a bad mood and you send him a text, it might... Like Jack, I text him, asking him about the editing software to produce a better show, get some sound effects, maybe some
Yeah.
explosions. He didn't answer, so I'm imagining he's off now too. He's probably not going to watch this week.
Who would win in a 2v2 on PlayStation? Jack and Tom or you and Tags?
I think they're very limited in the games they play.
Ooh.
They're big NBA 2K guys. And
So
they
if I picked a random game that neither of you played, not one of you guys played, who would win? Who would pick it up first and win?
It depends what time it is.
That-
If it's midnight, Tom kills us. If it's 7 p.m., there's no chance me and Tags will lose.
Well, let's cut it in the middle and go 9 p.m. a game neither of you played. 9 p.m. on a Friday.
Tags is drunk and high. That's it.
Who wins?
That they do. If it's not 7, we're very limited. They're limited in their game. We're limited in everything else. We beat them in Call of Duty. We beat them in Madden. We beat them in NCAA. We beat them in NHL. We beat them... I thought there was a 5th game. But they beat us in 2K.
But if it's a random game that I pick, then
Well-
you guys, who's going to pick it up first and win?
Well, you're going to pick Mario Brothers? I mean, there's not
Yeah.
really... There's a lot of different games. You can tell you're a non-gamer. You're sounding foolish at this point.
What if I, like a Rocket League or,
We drive cars and hit soccer balls.
yeah, it's a very popular game.
I bet the 4 of us don't play. We talk to each other. In the
I
middle.
hear it's a popular game. Or what if it's like a Call of Duty that you never played?
As first-person shooter, I feel we win because they're all the same.
Okay. I feel like that was a good question.
It was. I'm glad that you opened that door. Now we'll know if Jack watched the video or not.
Now you might get a response.
Yeah, for sure.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone you expect to blow up this week, points-wise?
The Steelers D.
Denver
Mm-hmm.
with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I usually a contrarian, and I'd like to argue, but I don't think there's a chance.
But now that I said that, I might have put the jinx on them, and now
Very
they might
much
lose,
could have.
so.
I was wondering, this is what I see. So the one major positive offensive talent on the Steelers right now is Boswell.
George Pickens, Najee Harris.
They scored tons of touchdowns this week. They
look great.
They put up a lot of points.
Good. Zach Frazier.
So being in Denver and Tomlin being not intelligent, I think he's going to try to have Boswell go out for a 70-yarder
He did it.
and blow his hamstring. It might blow up on the field. They'll have to stop the game to rake it up, and then every speck of point-getting ability will be over.
And
this
Boswell can hit from 75 in Denver.
I hope they try and see what
Yeah.
happens. I thought he'd get hurt punting. Honestly, at that point of the game, I'd put Fields out there to punt or throw a pick. Or I would not. Boswell is the only opportunity you have a point. It's the same thing as Philadelphia and the Giants. Did you watch that Hard Knocks, the preseason Hard Knocks, or you off?
Yeah.
They went in with what's his name, Joe Shine, the GM of the Giants, and they're all sitting around the table. What do we do with Barkley? Well, he wants too much money, and we got to really try to protect Daniel Jones to get him guys to score. And they're saying, well, if we don't have Barkley, how are we going to score? There's no way we can account for points. There's no home run. And they ultimately decided to not sign Barkley. You've seen what happened. It's when you have a guy that's that important to putting points on the board, you got to take care of him. And the Giants didn't. And, we'll see what happens this week with trying to boot a 85-yarder. I'm curious to see. I don't know if Surtain travels, but I'd like to see Surtain versus Pickens. Not that I think Justin Fields does Pickens any favors, just like Pickett didn't do Pickens any favors. But I would be curious to see, because even last week, at the end of the half, they have to go 40 yards. How in the world are you letting Pickens play one-on-one? I don't understand how there's not a corner and a safety, and there's a linebacker chipping them off the line. That's just awful coaching, and Pickens caught a big 40-yarder. I just don't understand how you let him be that open at the end of the half like that. Then they kick the field goal and got points. But I think there's a lot of bad coaching in the NFL.
Well, you should throw your name in the ring next year.
It's all nepotism. How do you think Arthur Smith got the job?
He's great.
His daddy did some. Doesn't his dad do something?
Yeah, he started FedEx.
Yeah, and then, so there you go. Big sponsors, FedEx Field in Washington. So that's how he got in. That's all I got. Bad quarterback play, bad coaching. I honestly think the defense is way, way, way better in the NFL than the offense is.
Overall?
Overall.
Yeah.
I think if you took an all-star team if the actual Pro Bowl was a thing, and you took a defensive all-star team and an offensive all-star team, and you called it correctly, didn't let the referees get involved, in phantom calls or roughing the quarterback.
I think that's a good idea. You should submit that. Instead of the East and West or whatever, AFC and NFC, do defense versus offense.
I think that'd be cool. They would never do it, but I think that would be really neat. That's it. 46 minutes now we went over. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
There it is.